And today's presenter is Robin Nagpal, Senior Consultant in our Application Development Practice. Let's see, some housekeeping. This session will be recorded, and a link to the recording will be shared with everyone along with a PDF of the slides, and we hope to get that to you early next week. Should you have any questions during today's presentation, GoToWebinar does offer a question area in your toolbar. So please submit the questions, and Robin will do his best to answer those at the end of the presentation. If they're complex or we don't have the answer immediately, we'd be happy to follow up with you via email with those, okay? So please do submit your questions. All right, so we'll get started with a brief overview of Done Solutions, and then I'll turn it over to Robin. Done Solutions has a long history of delivering innovative business technology solutions to companies. We're headquartered just outside of Chicago and also have offices in Minneapolis, Raleigh, St. Louis, and Bangalore, India. Our offerings fall into three practice areas. Our application development solutions feature portals, e-commerce and content managed websites, mobile application development, and custom application development. Our business intelligence solutions feature analytics and BI platforms, as well as data warehouse and data integration. We are an authorized SAP and Liferay training provider. We believe that training is important because when we deliver a solution, we want to be sure that those who need to know how to use it do. And we also offer several out-of-the-box analytics frameworks for various verticals. Our application development practice, as I mentioned, develops solutions that are custom and help differentiate our customers from their competitors. We provide solutions on portals, e-commerce, content managed websites, custom transactional applications, as well as mobile applications with integration with back-end systems. We've been doing custom application development since our inception in 1988, and it's one of our core practice areas. We're going to talk a little bit about Liferay today. We are a Liferay Platinum partner, and we provide the full range of services on the Liferay platform, from architecture to graphic design to responsive themes, which we're seeing a lot of now, in fact, and custom portal development and integration of Liferay with back-end systems. We also provide performance testing and tuning of Liferay implementations and help with resource augmentation for Liferay projects. We can help you complete a development project, and we have the ability to do so in an onshore or global delivery model. We maintain strong partnerships with top technology companies in order to offer our clients the most innovative solutions possible. And many of our partners, Liferay Platinum is a partner, as I said, and one of the first partners in Liferay's program. We joined them in 2005. We are also a certified training partner, in fact, one of only 3 certified training partners in the U.S. We help companies maximize their Liferay investment through private and customized training programs. We offer a global delivery model that gives us the flexibility to build teams that are best suited to our clients' timelines, budgets, and preferences. Projects that utilize offshore resources are always led by someone local and U.S.-based. Our clients, some of which are listed here, are a combination of Fortune 500, mid-market companies, government agencies, and not-for-profits, really across all verticals. Okay, at this point, I thank you for your attention to the introduction to Done Solutions, and I will turn it over to Robin for today's presentation. So I will make Robin the presenter. Just a reminder, feel free to submit any questions you may have. All right, Robin, I'm turning it over to you.
Thanks, Tori. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay, we can. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robin Nagpal, and I'm working as a senior consultant with Done Solutions Group. So today we are going to talk about single-page applications and how we can develop those using SENNA.JS. So in today's session, we'll be talking about the business problem, that why exactly do we need to go for single-page apps, and then we'll be looking into the current situation, that how exactly have we been developing the solutions till now. And then we'll talk about some of the single-page application frameworks, how exactly are they different from the things we have been doing so far till today. Then we'll try to find a solution using which we can convert the existing projects as single-page applications. And then we'll also look into the SENNA.JS. So the business problem problem is that each second of the response time is very, very important. Here are some of the stats that have been collected using various studies. It shows that 88% of the users choose online retailers which have high performant and user-friendly websites. 50% of the users abandon the website that fail to load within 3 seconds. So 3 seconds is also less time. But if you cross 3 second mark, it's most likely you lose a customer. So 46% of dissatisfied customers develop a long-lasting negative impression. So even if you invest money on your website later on to improve it, you'll still have a negative impression. Okay. So a 1 second delay in page load time can result in 11% fewer page views, decrease in customer satisfaction, and loss of conversions. So from all these stats, we can say that each second is very, very important for us. And for online retailers like Amazon, if their website response takes more, is delayed by a second, they will lose more than $1 billion every year. So the way we have been developing the apps till now is, so we have a browser. When we do some action on the browser sends a request to the server, and the server then intercepts the request, which is normally there. We follow the MVC pattern, and we have a front controller that is going to intercept the request, which is then going to forward the request to a controller, which might be for some function, and they will then call some services or maybe DAO layer or databases and get a model out of it. And then that model is then returned back to front controller, which then passes the model to view template and does the rendering. And as a response, it returns a fully rendered HTML page. So I've taken example of Spring MVC. So this architecture is more stressed towards Spring MVC, which is the most famous MVC framework of Java. So there is an interesting study which was done by VP of PayPal, which analyzes that how exactly is the time spent for a page load. So he captured the time when we do some action and the time it takes to reach the request to the server, and then how much time does it take for server to start responding it, and then how much time does it take for browser to complete drawing of the page, and then browser also starts making some static content calls like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or images and all. And then after we get all of the data, the complete page is loaded. So he studied this time, and he found that near about 48% or nearly half of the percent of the time is spent on loading of the static resources, which are common throughout other pages. So in the last decade, we have been spending a lot of time on optimizing things on the server side. Like we have been coming out with new caches, new databases to optimize the performance on the server side. But if we analyze the complete time it takes to load a page, we see server just spends 20 to 30% of that time. So there is not a lot of scope of optimizing the complete time if we're just concentrating on the server. So the problem is there on the client side, which takes near about half of the total time. Let's visit one such application which I've created for on my machine, and it's going to run in a slow network, and we're going to see how exactly the time is spent. So we start the recording. I click on a link, and we see that we get a response in near about 4 seconds. So we see the bars. This means that the JavaScript and CSS files are loading. So we have got the response, but our static resources is loading. So it took near about 20 seconds for the page to load. Let's do the same thing once again. Let's start the timer. Click on the employee list. And so we got the response again in a couple of seconds, but here also if you see our static resources are loading. So even if we have the response, here a lot of time is spent loading of the static resources. Again, it took like near about 17 seconds. So we saw that for slower networks, it's really bad. So near about 75% of the time is spent loading of the static resources. Let's do it once more. Let's click on the new employee. We get the response in a couple of seconds. And again, we're fetching all of the static resources like the JavaScript and CSS files, which are same throughout various pages. So we have been investing a lot of time on providing new functionalities on the server side, but ultimately response from a customer is like that the website is too slow because we have not invested a lot of time in improving the client-side rendering. So everyone has understood this problem, and everyone is moving towards single-page apps now. So single-page apps means with applications or websites which have single-page load. That means once your request goes to the server, you're going to fetch all the resources and you're going to put them on client. And when you make subsequent requests, your page will not refresh. So single-page apps is often confused with some of the websites which show all of the content in one page, which has a lot of scrolling. So single-page app does not have to do much with the UI. That's more of a web design fashion that is there. But single-page apps means that it's just single load. It doesn't mean that how exactly you are, what type of UI, how exactly are you rendering, or like exactly. Again, you fetch the page for the first load, and in the subsequent actions, you fetch the HTML fragments and JSON data. So and the rendering is done on the client side. Since everything is done now on the client side, rather than server deciding that which controller it needs to call, which services it needs to call, now that logic has moved to client. So client decides what is next. Most of these MVC frameworks, client-side MVC frameworks, they use, or single-page application frameworks use hashbang. So hashbang is used to maintain the state. That means once you move from one screen to other, and you refresh your browser, in that case your state should be maintained. These apps have a native app experience. That's primarily because single-page apps are very, very responsive. Let's see the architecture of these apps. So I have named it as single-page MVC framework. Some of people call it as MVVP, or some people call it as MV frameworks. And I've drawn an example, like this diagram is based on Angular.js, which is the most famous single-page application framework that everyone is using these days. So once the first time request goes to the browser, from the browser to the server responds back with the JavaScript code which is going to handle the client-side rendering and will have all the logic. And then whenever a subsequent action happens, so browser is going to send a request to server for the HTML fragment. So it's only going to get the HTML fragment, which will be without the data, and then it's going to make another call to fetch the data, and then it's going to add the data into the fragment and it's going to render that. So in this we see that everything has been now moved to the client side rather than a server side. So let's see an example of an Angular.js app which is run in a same network, which is very slow, which is a similar app. So we start the recording, and we click on next screen, it loads, and we go to customer list, try to edit the customer, we again go to customer list. So we went to 4 different screens, and it just took about 8 seconds, right, all in total. So it might have taken less than 1 second less than 2 seconds for each screen. Let's play that again. Click on the first screen, go to click a screen, the whole page doesn't reload, we edit a customer, go to the customer list. So it's very fast, very fast. That was awesome. So we know that single page apps is the right solution if we really want to get the right performance. But what do we do of the solutions which we have developed so far? So we might have been investing a lot of time or maybe a lot of years in developing a solution. And then in the last year, we come to know that it was all done in a wrong way. And we need to just refactor everything and make it as a single page app. So there is a huge change in the way we have been doing the apps till now and the way we do the apps as single page. So let's visit that again. So here is how we have been doing the apps till now, where all the MVC logic is there on the server. The server side what is net, server renders the complete page and returns it to the browser. Whereas in a single page application frameworks, everything has now moved to the client side. So client side framework decide what is net, and it gets the HTML fragments and the JSON data from the server. It combines that and renders that to the user. And now if we have to convert an existing project on which we might have spent 4 or 5 years, if we have to convert that existing project into a single page app solution, the things which we have to do is we'll have to completely rewrite the MVC layer that is there. And then when we are rewriting the MVC layer, it's going to have a ripple effect. So we might have to refactor the service layer also. Now, since everything has now moved to client, we'll have to enable security, we'll have to add permissions on the client side. And then we'll have to do a certain solve some certain cross-cutting concerns like error handling or logging of the exceptions and all. So for a project on which you might have spent $10 million, and to make those projects as single page apps, you will be spending at least $2 million just to make those as single page apps. The worst part is you might be spending near about 9 months to a year of development in completely rewriting it. So in that case, you might not be adding any new functionality because it's just rewriting of the entire code. And who knows, if you're not delivering any functionality for 1 year, you might run out of business because you have not delivered anything new. So the solution which we saw for single page apps is more of a problem for an existing things. So again, for new websites or for new solutions, it is fine. But for the existing apps, it is again a problem, right? Because it is huge investment for the existing players. So for a player like Liferay, to refactor everything, or maybe some of the other big players to refactor everything, it's not possible. There is a very nice framework that has been developed by Liferay team, which is SENNA.JS. It is a JavaScript framework. We'll go to SENNA.JS website. So you can go there, you can look at the documentation and all, you can see how to use it. And let's go to the GitHub website. So if you go to the build folder, so here is a SENNA.js file which you'll have to include in your project to make your existing projects as single page apps. And that file is very small, it's like 31 KBs. And you might want to add a CSS file also, which is going to give a good UI feedback on the client. So let's look at the same application which we developed in the same network by adding Senna.js. We added Senna.js to the same application. If we click on the first screen, the full page doesn't reload, and here is how fast it is. Right, so again here about 4 or 5 screens without any page load, and we show all of those screens within like 6 or 7 seconds in the same network. So this is how fast Senna.js you can make your existing application so fast. So we'll look into how exactly Senna.js work and what exactly do you have to do for them. So the way Senna.js is different from other application frameworks is, so once you add Senna.js to your application, so I'll just show you the code. So here is the outer layout which is there. So I have added Senna.js file here, and then here is my Senna.js file, and then I have included my other JavaScript and CSS files that are there. And the way it works is, once your page is loaded and the user clicks on any of the links, Senna.js is going to intercept that link, and rather than making a full GET request in the cases where your page loads, it's going to replace that with an AJAX call. So an AJAX call is going to go to your server. It's going to show you the UI feedback, and it's going to get the fully rendered HTML back from the server. It's going to pass that HTML, and if we see in our application, so on every screen, once we go to the new screen, so the HTML which changes is the center part, but whereas the outer part remains the same. So it's going to pass the HTML, and then it is going to flip the surfaces with change. And then it's going to use the history API of HTML5 to update the URL. And then it renders the page, and if there are any post processor, it's going to call those, and it's going to finalize the request. Let's look at the diagram, how exactly it works. So you have a browser, you do some action, it goes to Senna.js. Senna.js, rather than sending a page load request, it sends an AJAX request. It's going on the server side, the code remains the same. Your server returns a fully rendered HTML, which is then again intercepted by Senna.js. It fetches the changed parts, or like the surfaces which have changed, and replaces those surfaces. So there is no full page load there. I will show you the code. So mine is a simple application. So the code which I have to add on top of Senna.js is just these 8 lines to make it very fast, to make it as a single page app. So what exactly is happening here is I'm initializing Senna.js. I say this is the URL which I need to intercept. So anything which happens after these URLs, like if you see employee index.js, if I had a new, it's create. So anything after this URL needs to be intercepted by Senna.js. So I can add wildcards there the way I have added, and then I say that my surface is Senna content. So once I get the HTML response back from the server, I need to replace this surface. So if we inspect the HTML, so Senna content, if you see, this is the surface for which we configure Senna.js. So every time it's going to send similar request the way it used to go. Whenever it gets the response, it's going to just get the Senna content out of it, and it's going to flip the surface. Let's again look at the application which was there in the same network using Senna.js. So we start the application, click on next screen, we go to employee list, new employees, pause it. So we can see how fast it is. Right, thank you. So again, I would sum up, if you are having a new application, it would be good that you can use any of the new frameworks like AngularJS or maybe something else. But if you're having an existing application in which you have already invested a lot of money, I would say Senna.js might be the right choice for you. All right, thank you. Let me know if you have any questions. We can take all of those questions now.
Great. Thank you so much, Robin. Hopefully everyone found that information helpful. And at this time, we welcome your questions. Okay, Robin, first question. Can we use Senna.js with JSF?
Yeah, we can use it. So again, on the server side, everything remains the same. The only thing you do is that you add Senna.js, which is going to intercept your response. So you need to make sure that which surfaces are changing. Like in my case, I said that Senna content is a surface or is the part which changes here. So you need to write some code to tell that which surface it's going to change, and then Senna.js is going to flip that surface for you. So again, you can use it for JSF also, and with Liferay also, since it's been created by Liferay, so Liferay has added around 200 lines of code. So mine is just 8 lines. So to make all of the portlets which comes with Liferay, or whatever portlets you have developed so far. So to make all of those as single page application portlets, so Liferay has written like pretty generic code, which is about 200 lines of code, and using that, it has converted all of those portraits as single page apps. So the only thing you need to consider is how surfaces are going to flip, but it's up to you whatever technology you want to use on the server side.
Great, and I think the latter part of your answer addressed a question that someone just submitted about how it works with Liferay.
Yes. So the good part is, rather than bundling it with Liferay, so Liferay has developed it as a separate project, so that more people who are not familiar with Liferay portal also, they can also start contributing to it and also can use it. So if we see Senna.js, here is the GitHub repository. So I think it's been around 4 or 5 months that Senna.js has been there, and if you see the number of stars, it's more than 1,000 here. And Liferay portal, that project has been there for near about 12 years, and the number of stars is less than those are there for Senna.js. So you can see how famous it is. It's not just limited to Liferay. Liferay is using it in Liferay 7, and then if you want to use it, you can use it in earlier versions of Liferay also, but you'll have to add that code. But you're free to use it for any other application also.
Okay, and someone is asking for you to please clarify what a surface is.
Good. That's a really very nice question. So surface is, if we see a portlet, like in some of the cases we see one portlet is one surface, right? In this case, some of the things which remain same, like this is going to change, this is one surface, right? So things which change, we can classify those as surfaces, and then we can declare that for these URLs, these are the surfaces that will change. So surface is exactly a div that is there, and then you add an ID to it, and you like here it is Senna content. So Senna content is this surface that is there. So I'm just replacing Senna content. It can be that once you click on a link, it can be that you want to refresh 3 or 4 different surfaces on the screen. In that case, you declare those in Senna.js, and Senna.js is going to pass the response and just going to update it.
Great, thank you. And Robin, what alternatives are there to Senna.js, or is it unique for refactoring existing apps?
Can you please repeat the question, Laurie?
Yeah, I'm just reading it as it was written. What alternatives to Senna.js, or is it unique for refactoring existing apps?
So Senna.js is based on one of the famous JavaScript projects which was based on surfaces. I can't recall the name of the project that was there, but I feel in some of the existing projects where you don't want to do a lot of refactoring and you don't want to do a lot of rewriting, Senna.js is the right choice.
Great. And then as a follow-up to that, what are the steps that need to be taken to refactor Senna.js?
Let me go to the presentation again. So if we see Senna.js, if we see the conventional application, it was there, which a browser makes a request, gets the fully rendered HTML response, and we have the complete MVC on the server. So the good part about Senna.js is you don't have to do refactoring on the server side. Might be minimal to just align the IDs of the surfaces so that you have proper dev IDs and all that, which can be flipped or which can be replaced. But then you have to write some JavaScript code so that whenever you take those actions, your surfaces are flipped. So a project like Liferay, so you have seen Liferay is a huge project that is there. So for them, they just have to write around 200 lines of code, which is pretty generic, to make most of their application as single page apps. So it again, like when you are using Senna.js, it's not that it's going to be 100-page single app. That means it doesn't mean that it's going to be just one page load, but in 70 to 80% of the cases, it's going to be like you're not going to have a full page load. In some of the cases, like when there's a post request, so those might not be intercepted by Senna.js. We might not want to intercept those. So in those cases, it's going to be a full page load. But in cases when the user is moving from one screen to other, we can add Senna.js in this very simple code, and then it's going to make it a single page app.
Great, thank you, Robin. Okay, so I believe that concludes the Q&A. We'll take one last question here. All right, Robin, for a new Liferay portlet project, do you recommend SENNA.JS or one that can also use AngularJS?
I have been using AngularJS also for some of my portlets, but I would say for someone who's starting fresh, for him to learn Angular, it would be difficult, and I would say that for them, because they don't have to do any work on the client side, so whenever you get Liferay 7, your portlet is going to remain the way it is. So all of those portlets will be converted to single page app framework. So that means you're not investing any time to make those. But when you're adding things like Angular, you'll have more control. So you can want the things which you want to do, like for the post request and also. So you can have almost 100% as single page apps. So it depends upon the requirement. I would say before I knew Senna.js, I was using Angular, but after I was familiar with Senna.js, I'm now planning to add Senna.js into the projects on which I'm using Liferay 6.2. So I'm planning to keep the server-side code as same, and I'm planning to add Senna.js to it, and also grabbing the code which Liferay has written to make all of those portraits as single-page apps.
Excellent, thank you. All right, we invite any additional questions or follow-up as an email to Robin. In the email that I will send out to everyone with a link to today's recording, I'll include Robin's email so that you can follow up with him directly. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week. And like I said, I'll be in touch in the next couple days with the recording. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Okay.